In the decades after World War II, the skyline of almost every major American city told a simple story. Economic progress meant offices. Towering glass and steel buildings in New York, Chicago, San Francisco, and Houston embodied the rhythm of a nation that created value through people gathering in one place to think, trade, and manage. They were more than workplaces. They were the physical manifestation of the economy itself. Today, that picture is changing. Over the past few years, U.S. investment in data centers, the sprawling warehouses filled with servers that power the digital age, has surged so dramatically that it is nearly equal to spending on office construction. Within a few quarters, it is expected to surpass it. That crossing point is not simply a quirk of statistics. It may signal a deep transformation in how societies create wealth and define productivity. For centuries, economists described the foundations of production in three terms: land, labor, and capital. In time, enterprise and knowledge were added as refinements. The factory and later the office represented capital in its most concentrated form, machines and buildings that enabled workers to create value. The office was particularly symbolic. It gathered people together, allowed managers to oversee operations, and fostered collaboration. Even more than factories, offices shaped the culture of the 20th century. They created the 9-to-5, filled downtowns with workers, and supported entire ecosystems, transport systems, restaurants, coffee shops, business attire, and even the after-work bar scene. Offices were not just spaces where productivity happened. They were visible monuments to human-centered production. Now compare that to the data center. At first glance, a data center is unremarkable. A bland, windowless box on the outskirts of a city, surrounded by fences and humming quietly with cooling fans. No glamorous lobbies, no streams of people, no panoramic skyline views. Yet inside, the shift is profound. Where offices concentrated human effort, data centers concentrate computational effort. They are the infrastructure behind cloud computing, artificial intelligence, and the digital services that increasingly shape both business and daily life. If the office was the cathedral of human productivity, the data center is the silent temple of machine productivity. This shift suggests we may now be witnessing the emergence of a new factor of production: computation. Just as the steam engine redefined work in the 19th century, computation today may be redefining what it means to generate economic value. Consider the contrast. Offices generated productivity by coordinating humans, meetings, memos, negotiations. Data centers generate productivity by coordinating machines, training AI models, crunching data, automating decision-making. The productivity of the office was limited by the number of people it could hold, the hours they could work, and the speed of their interactions. The productivity of the data center, in principle, scales almost infinitely. More servers, more energy, more bandwidth. This is not simply an incremental efficiency gain, it is a redefinition of where value comes from. The transformation is most visible in energy use. In 2023, U.S. data centers consumed 4.4% of national electricity, about 176 terawatt hours. By 2028, projections suggest that share could triple to 12%, equivalent to the annual consumption of entire mid-sized countries. Globally, data center demand is set to more than double, from 415 terawatt hours in 2024 to 945 terawatt hours in 2030, with 80% of the growth concentrated in the US and China. The intensity is staggering. Modern racks of GPUs, graphic processing units crucial for AI, already consume 36 kilowatts each, expected to rise to 50 kilowatts by 2027. By comparison, a typical US household uses about 11 kilowatts per day. One rack equals the daily energy needs of several families. The economic investment mirrors this. North America's data center market alone may be worth $1 trillion by 2030. In Northern Virginia, the global capital of data centers, these facilities already consume 26% of the state's electricity, almost triple the national average. But all this comes at a cost. In 2023, U.S. data centers emitted over 105 million tons of CO2, about 2.2% of total national emissions, more than the aviation industry. Over half of this came from fossil fuel generation. Unless paired with clean energy, AI-driven growth risks colliding head-on with climate targets. Data centers are also water-hungry. Hyperscale facilities used more than 66 billion liters in 2023 for cooling. In drought-prone regions, this raises urgent trade-offs between digital growth and human needs. The power grid is under strain too. In the U.S. Mid-Atlantic, PJM, the largest regional grid operator, has warned that surging data center demand is outpacing supply. Capacity auction prices have risen more than 800%, reflecting fears that demand could overwhelm the system. The invisible engine of the digital economy is, in fact, visible in electricity bills, water shortages, and stressed grids. If offices define the economic geography of the 20th century, data centers are beginning to define that of the 21st. The US leads for now, hosting more than a third of global capacity, but China is catching up rapidly, investing heavily in national cloud infrastructure and AI supercomputing. The European Union is more cautious, balancing digital growth with strict sustainability rules. Geopolitics is never far away. Control of data centers means control of computation capacity, now a strategic resource on par with oil or rare earth metals. Nations are beginning to treat compute sovereignty as essential to national security. This raises a provocative question. Could wars of the future be fought not over land or oil, but over energy and compute capacity? All of this brings us back to people. For a century, offices gave meaning and identity to millions. They were where careers were built, where social networks formed, where a sense of collective purpose grew. The data center offers no such social fabric. It hums quietly on the edge of town, run by a handful of technicians, largely invisible to the public. The productivity it generates is also different. Rather than coordinating clerks, accountants, and analysts, it powers algorithms that may replace them. Entire professions, from customer service to legal research, now face disruption. Yet history suggests the story is not one of simple replacement. The factory destroyed artisanal work but created industrial jobs. The office displaced clerks but enabled new professional and service sectors. The data center era may likewise create opportunities we cannot yet see, roles in AI alignment, digital infrastructure, and new industries built on machine intelligence. But unlike past transitions, this one risks concentrating wealth and power more heavily. If productivity shifts from humans to machines and the machines are owned by a handful of corporations, then inequality could widen dramatically. What does it mean for economics if computation becomes a factor of production alongside land, labor, and capital? Measurement. GDP today measures output mostly in human terms, but how do we value the productivity of machines? Distribution. If wealth is generated by servers rather than workers, who should capture it? The owners, the state, or society at large? Sustainability. Growth powered by ever-rising energy use collides with environmental limits. How can data centers become greener without stalling digital progress? Policy. Should governments treat compute like infrastructure, regulated, subsidized, and strategically managed as they did with railroads or highways? These are not abstract questions. They define the choices societies must make in the coming decade. Think again of the contrast. The office tower dominates skylines, a public declaration of economic activity. The data center hides behind walls and security fences, invisible to daily life. Yet the latter may soon matter more than the former. The shift is not just technological. It is cultural, civic, and geopolitical. It changes how cities are built, how nations compete, how wealth is shared, and how we measure progress. If the 20th century was the century of the office, the 21st may well be the century of the data center. As societies, we must decide how to shape this future. Will data centers be powered by clean energy, or will they deepen the climate crisis? Will their productivity benefits be shared widely or concentrated in the hands of a few tech giants? Will they complement human work or hollow it out? Will nations cooperate on global digital infrastructure or compete fiercely for computational supremacy? These choices will determine whether data centers become the backbone of a sustainable and inclusive digital economy or monuments to short-sighted ambition. Once the office was the beating heart of productivity, structuring cities and lives alike. Today, data centers are quietly taking its place, reshaping economies from the shadows. Their rise marks a profound economic reorientation, from human-driven to machine-driven productivity, from visible monuments to invisible giants, from the physical coordination of workers to the algorithmic coordination of machines. The world stands at a hinge moment. Data centers are not merely warehouses of servers. They are the crucibles where the future of productivity, sustainability, and geopolitics will be forged. If you enjoyed this story, please like, subscribe, and share your thoughts in the comments. Please support us on Patreon, link below.